In December 2020, the world discovered one of the most significant cyber breaches in history, a sophisticated supply chain attack on SolarWinds, a popular IT management software vendor, which would go on to impact an estimated 18,000 organizations with losses of around $90 million. The attackers were later attributed to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service and went by many names which we'll refer to as APT29. So how did APT29 use a legitimate tool to breach customers including the United States Treasury, Department of Homeland Security, and even tech companies including Microsoft and FireEye? Adversaries often create malware and components before compromising a victim, and in this incident, attackers had embedded a malicious payload on a legitimate component of the SolarWinds Orion platform software. This component is a DLL library, which, when compromised, was called Sunburst by the company FireEye, who would eventually discover the breach. This Sunburst backdoor can deliver different payloads, such as a previously unseen memory-only dropper called Teardrop. Now, Teardrop Dropper deploys popular commercially available tool, Cobalt Strike Beacon, and Beacon runs only in memory, so it can be quite difficult to detect, and it allows remote communication and task execution. They also were able to rent virtual private servers to use IP addresses originating from the same country as their victims. So this covers the resource development phase of the attack, now looking at initial access. The campaign began as early as September 2019, when attackers breached SolarWinds' development environment. They were able to insert their test code, and by February 2020 had successfully planted the Sunburst malicious code into the production Orion platform builds. These Trojanized updates were digitally signed with SolarWinds certificate and pushed out through SolarWinds' normal update channels between March and June 2020. Any customer who had installed the new versions of the Orion software had unknowingly let in the back door. Once a victim had applied that tainted update, the hidden DLL, the Sunburst DLL, was loaded by the Orion service and deliberately remained quiet for about 2 weeks, delaying tactics for evasion, and then was executed, masking its network traffic to blend in with legitimate SolarWinds communications, using benign-looking domain names and mimicking normal patterns. Upon activation, Sunburst established connections to command and control servers, often through stealthy HTTP requests. The attackers also utilized more defense evasion techniques, such as hiding the configuration data and removing indicators from hosts. This phase gave the adversaries a quiet foothold into the network without raising alarms. With a foothold now into the Orion server, attackers were able to escalate their access. They used the Teardrop and the Beacon implant for hands-on control, and once interactive, they were unable to get inside the Active Directory and email environments using inbuilt PowerShell commands to list domain user in groups, and also to discover high-value mailboxes and roles. During this reconnaissance, the group often used more legitimate AD queries and management role assignment PowerShell queries. Next, they were able to move to using these credentials that were dumped from memory, using tools such as Mimikatz, and stealing private keys and token files. Notably, on some networks, they were able to locate the ADFS, Active Directory Federation Services Signing Certificate, which was kind of a crown jewel that enabled the next stage. So armed with admin credentials, stolen keys, APT29 expanded their reach, getting more admin logins and service accounts that they had compromised to move laterally across servers, and in some cases installing additional backdoors such as the GoldMax malware and web shells for persistence. Where these ADFS certificates were found, it allowed attackers to forge SAML authentication tokens, allowing them to essentially impersonate any user in the federated Azure or M365 cloud environment. This allowed them to bypass multi-factor authentication and access cloud resources as if they were legitimate single sign-on users. This also allowed them to add new application credentials and even create or modify trusted cloud domains to maintain access. The final stage here was the data collection and exfiltration. Once they controlled the key assets, such as the domain controllers, Exchange, email servers, and cloud accounts, they were able to stealthily collect data they wanted. Their primary objective, which was observed in at least one victim, was for exfiltrating emails from select executives and IT staff. They used Exchange management tools for exporting mailboxes and using other legitimate channels to pull data out. Throughout this, they took care to blend this with normal traffic, exfiltrating data over encrypted web connections or cloud APIs, so it appeared to be routine traffic. And by mid-2020, attackers had likely obtained the intelligence they sought because they were even removing the backdoor code from SolarWinds' build environment to cover their tracks, making it harder for defenders to trace this. The operation remained undetected until the anomalous activity in December, where FireEye discovered this. This SolarWinds saga, now well documented in open reports, serves as a tale of how a determined group can covertly bypass defenses and highlights why layered defenses and vigilant monitoring can improve your chances of early detection and stopping attackers before they achieve their goals. So a few areas that are key in this case are supply chain security and integrity. Even assuming that your supply chain can be compromised, using digital signature verification, behavior monitoring of software updates can detect anomalies. So in this case, having runtime monitoring around the run DLLs that were, and contacting odd domains would have been a bit of a red flag. Vendors should also be hardening their build processes, strict access control, code integrity checks to prevent the injection of malicious code. Network segmentation and zero trust. Once the Orion server had been compromised, it became a launching point for the attackers. So making sure you have proper segmentation between these servers, a bit of a zero trust approach, so continuous verification at each request, would have limited how far the compromise could reach. It could have also been as simple as restricting outbound internet traffic, using application allow lists that could have cut off these connections to the command and control servers. Strong authentication and credential hygiene is always really, really important. While they were able to bypass some multi-factor authentication via the token forgery, implementing MFA is still essential everywhere else, as is protecting identity infrastructure itself. So monitoring ADFS servers and your cloud identity provider configurations for unexpected changes, rotating sensitive certificates and keys. Enforcing least privilege access for service accounts, and regular credential vaulting can impact the impact of credential theft. Behavioral analytics and anomaly detection. So defense evasion was kind of a big part of this, hiding in normal admin activity. So defenders should use advanced analytics to spot these signs of compromise. Looking for unusual administrative actions like a surge of PowerShell commands, dumping user lists, applications gaining high privileges should trigger alerts, and monitoring for abnormal token usage would catch some of these as well. Obviously, I didn't do all this research myself, so a shout out to all the many public incident reports and analyses by cybersecurity firms and agencies, MITRE ATT&CK, campaign entry, CISA, the NSA advisories, some other ones that I'll put all those in the comments so you can read these. If you want to support this content, please give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you next time.